And I'm going. Brilliant. So, hi everybody. My name is Alicia Richardson, and I am a DEI talent and culture strategist. So I currently work with BAMI on working with businesses on their corporate and D&I strategies. And if you'd like to connect with me further after this presentation, then feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn using the link below. So hello. So let's first of all get started on personal branding. Now, let's first of all start defining it and understanding what it is. And the man himself, Richard Branson, he starts off by saying, branding demands commitment to continual reinvention, striking chords with people to stir their emotions, and commitment to imagination. It's easy to be cynical about such things, but much harder to be successful. Now, I don't know if, I know not everyone's cameras are on, but just a quick question to throw it out there, Sapphire, Ariel, how would you define personal branding? What is that to you? Feel free to unmute. No? Or Ariel? Okay, I'm gonna ask Bami, my co-host. Bami, what's personal branding to you?
So personal branding to me means like showing up as your most authentic self, but curating it. So curating it in a way that it speaks to your audience, whether it's you're applying for a new job or, you're starting a new school or you're going to university. It's like the part of the world the part of yourself that you want the world to like see and really understand what's so like great about you.
Exactly.
That's my definition.
Agreed. And that's the thing with personal branding, alongside what Bami says, is yes, you're being your true authentic self, but I feel like it's a really good opportunity for you to choose what you want to share with the rest of the world and how you want to be perceived and what you want to be known for. It's still a part of you, but it's always important to kind of differentiate. And sometimes there's a thin line between personal branding and your personal space and personal life. So let's explore personal branding a little bit further. So what is a personal brand? So it is how others perceive you. So, what do they think of when they look at you and they associate speaking about you? What things come to mind? For example, we know that if we say Beyonce, for example, we know that's going to be to do with singing or dancing or music. If we look at individuals such as Kanye, not only is he in music, but he's now known for fashion as well. He's expanded his own personal brand. So it's also how others perceive you. Also, what you're known for doing. So have you done anything that's completely valuable, that's going to have a huge impact, that's memorable, that can be classified as a legendary thing to do? What is it that you want to be known for? Think about that as well. What would people trust you for? Now, this is something that's very important, especially when it comes to influencer marketing. When we, as agencies or companies, when we decide to work with influencers, we think about what their audience trusts them for. So, for example, if there's someone that reviews makeup and they're trusted with their makeup reviews, we wouldn't go to them to probably talk about food or talk about business, because their audience is unlikely to trust them in that area, but they will trust them in one area. So think about what you're trusted for. What others will come to you on advice on. So that could, again, that's very specific, but this is also a part of your brand. And this is, again, built off the back of the content you put out, how you're perceived, what you're trusted for. It adds on. So what would people come to you to ask you on advice with? Now, all of these things, they come out of the things that you say and engage with online. And it's really important to think about how, again, you're perceived. So it's not just you posting a picture on Instagram, it's not just you posting content on Twitter, but it's also with what you decide to engage with. So it can be from what you like, what you comment on, what you reshare. These things can also form a part of what comes from you. So also who you're affiliated with, so your network. So typically on LinkedIn, you can see that people are connected with thousands and thousands of people. But when you expand on that, who is it that you mostly work with, or who is it that you mostly go out with to events? Who is it that you're mainly associated with? That also affects your personal branding. Who you work with, as I mentioned before, your image. So Instagram is also a part of a personal brand. I'm going to go into that a little bit later when we talk about the platforms that you can use and how you can build them. Again, the work you do and where and how you speak. So where you speak might be events that you might go to, it might be platforms, online webinars. If you have a clear personal branding, a lot of the things that you do, what you post, what you say, and how you speak, where you attend, those should interlink and they should all tie in together. Yeah, cool. So what employers look for when they're looking at candidates and how they represent their personal brands. So some of the key things that employers look for is where you've worked, first of all. What companies have you worked with? What do they do? Now, this ties into your personal brand because it ties into your area of expertise as well. So, you know, if, for example, again, someone's hiring for a role and it's within pharmaceutical, if all of your experience is in fashion, they may not necessarily look at you to work in a pharmaceutical company. I'm not saying they won't, but you're not going to be the first option because of your areas of expertise. So they look at where you've worked. They look at your career progression as well. So how quickly are you able to climb up the ladder within positions? Have you been stagnant for several years, or are you someone that jumps quite quickly? What does that say about your personality? Now, employers like it when candidates typically have, say, a period of time, say 1 to 2 years within one role, and then they progress. That type of pattern, from my experience in hiring, is preferred, because there's a thing where if you stay in the same role for too long, you're probably most likely going to be seen as this is the role that you can do. You're comfortable with this role, especially early on in your career. Get the 1 to 2 years experience, move on. And if your company doesn't offer that progression, look elsewhere so that you are constantly moving upwards. I can talk from my own experience in the past, outside of working with BAMI, in the past, say 3 years, I've been in 3 jobs, right? And, you know, and each time the title will change and the salary will change. So employers look for that because it shows how progressive you are, how ambitious you are as well. Also, what you share. What type of content are you sharing online? That's what we also look at. So again, looking at what you might reshare, what you might comment on, what you potentially engage with, especially on LinkedIn as well. There's a lot of conversations on LinkedIn that can be deemed as controversial, and there can be quotes that might be put out, statements. What are you actually engaging with? What are you passionate about? Does it come out in the content that you engage with? Again, for example, earlier this year when the Meghan and Harry situation happened and they had an interview and some people were posting about it on LinkedIn. And I saw someone in particular post Meghan or Kate, and I had to comment on that. I had to comment because that's my passion point, you know, equality, you know, not putting women against each other, not causing more of a rage. And I had to say, this is really inappropriate, you know, especially for LinkedIn. So some of the things that you engage with on LinkedIn show character as well. So those are other things to look out for. Employers also look at how long you've been in each role. So if a red flag to employers is when you've been in a role a month here, 2 months here, a month there, 3 months here, and you're jumping around constantly, because it shows that you're probably not giving a role a chance for it to grow. If you're constantly moving from role to role, you never have that actual experience of understanding a role properly if you're constantly moving. So you have to be in that in between, as I mentioned before, that 1 to 2 year where you can get deeper into the role, you know, look at it day to day, work with different people, get that breadth of experience. Recommendations and endorsements. I look at this, especially when looking at candidates. Who's recommended you? Have you Have you had anybody that said that you've done a really good job? At this point, if in your career, if you've been in your career for about at least 4 years, you should have at least 1 or 2 recommendations of people, colleagues, managers, clients that you might have worked with that said you've done an amazing job. So try to get those recommendations and get people to endorse you as well. The depth of your work as well that you did within your role. This is something that's massive, and this could be elaborated on LinkedIn. So you might want to highlight some projects that you've worked on. And actually, sometimes you might find that someone with 5 years experience versus 2 years experience doesn't make that much of a difference, because the person with 2 years experience might have gone into more depth within their role. They may have covered more projects. They may have worked on bigger budgets. They might have worked to stricter timelines. Their work could have been much more intense. And the one working for 5 years may have had, more relaxed projects or looser timelines and less of a budget. If there's any questions, by the way, in between, feel free to raise your hand. This is the open forum. So the depth of work that you did within your role, and you can reflect that in your LinkedIn profile. Other things I didn't mention that I'm gonna go on to is, again, small things like a profile picture on LinkedIn. Make sure it's appropriate. I've seen people put up pictures of them on the beach or in the club even, and that's not appropriate for LinkedIn, because it's not that's not the side that you want to be reflecting. Instagram, Twitter, that's fine, but the LinkedIn is your professional platform, and you should demonstrate that in all ways possible. Also, I'll get onto this in a second. Stating what is it you want as well. Sometimes people might have a history on LinkedIn working in project management, but they want to get into strategy. If you don't state that you want to get into strategy, I can guarantee you every single employer is going to contact you about working in project management. So if you do want to have a career change, state it on your LinkedIn. You look out for these particular things. Also, unique content creation. Are you making unique videos or posts or graphics? Are you starting up a really good conversation? There's one candidate that I interviewed and hired because she was a UX UI designer, and she just continued making prototypes on her LinkedIn and just sharing them, saying this is a concept that I created, this is something else. And every single week she's churning out work. She's showing her work ethic. She didn't have a job at the time. She's showing her creativity, and she's being persistent, and she's being unique. And employers look for stuff like this, and we admire things like this. So again, LinkedIn is a perfect platform to churn out content you do. If you're a blogger, a writer, producer, if you can work on something that you can churn out, put that out there. And also, we look at the events that you attend, so how active. This isn't a must thing, but depending on your role, we look at where you're visible, where you attend, where you go also. Perfect. In regards to the next step, so standout profiles. So of course I've had to add myself and Bami on there and as examples, and I'll tell you all why. So first of all, let's go on to Stephen Bartlett. I've followed Stephen Bartlett for probably since I've graduated from university, and his content stands out to me because of the controversial topics he posts. He always says things that stir up a conversation. So for example, he would just say something simple like this: do you agree or disagree? Your life right now is a result of what you did a year ago. Your life a year ago will be a result of what you do right now. Act accordingly. He says things that make you think, okay, that's a good point to think about. And it makes you stop as well, especially in a busy working day. So think about content you can put out there that will make people stop and think, that was inspiring. Or actually, that's a good point you made. Or I don't agree with that. Let's have a conversation about it. So that's one good stance. Other things you can add to your profile include, so Amelia Sordell, she actually owns a personal branding agency called Clout. Again, I've been connected with Amelia for quite some time, and I think that she's a brilliant example. She really knows how to do personal branding. One thing she does really well, she has consistent content coming out on her LinkedIn. So you know that she has like a live on a particular day, a video launch on a particular day, and she does it regardless if people attend or not. Now, of course, people tend, but there was a point where I don't think she was getting as many viewers as she is now. So she had that consistency. And I know she planned her content as well because of the context of what she was talking about. And she states in a headline, I brand people, not businesses. Speaker, founder, the personal branding agency. She states exactly what it is she does. And I would strongly encourage everyone to just state, what is it you do? You'll be surprised how many people don't. Even if you're early in your career, you can say content creator or, you know, digital designer or fashion designer, whatever it is you aspire to be, say it. Change it even now, this second. If you're watching this on a record, press pause and you know, go to your LinkedIn and change it to the name that you want it to be. And of course, Bami, she does excellent content. One of the things that she does really well is talking about the work that she does. This is a prime example as to how to show people this is what I'm doing, you know, to also verify that actually I've got clients that trust working with me. These are the people that are working with me. And it's a good way to, I guess, put out content. You know, there's things that you can still learn from these points that she made in the workshop. So it's a good way to get your work out there and to get people to know that you do work. And sometimes it brings in new business as well. So it's always good to kind of put out work. And also myself, so here's an example of a press feature that I got with the Drum this week, talking about how to position yourself. So similar to this, how to position yourself to employees. Having third parties speak on your behalf or shout you out or include your opinion in their piece is another way to add value and to add credibility to your profile and your name as well. So again, these things do take time, but what I would say a starting point is find people that inspire you. There's one lady that inspires me as well that I haven't actually added on here. Her name's Irene. Amazing like personal branding she has. And what I would say is look at their journey, look at the content they post, look at how often they post it, look at how they conduct themselves, and use that as an inspirational point. And add your own twist to what they do. Look at the press platforms that they've been featured on. What type of content are these press platforms featuring them on? Think about that and think about how you can have a similar approach. So moving on how to stand out. So some pointers on how to do this. So be very clear about the image you want to portray. Take a moment and think, and it can change. It doesn't need to stay the same, but think about it, because once you start being this person online, this is what people are going to trust and believe. So if you keep changing it all the time, then eventually nothing's going to stick. So you have to be clear about, okay, who is it that I want to be? How do I want to be perceived? This has taken me time to figure this out as well. This is me being honest and vulnerable, you know, thinking, do I want to be known as someone that's really bubbly and just chatty, or do I want to show my life, or do I want to talk about work, or do I just want to just not show anything? Like, what is that I want to do? So be clear about that. Be true to yourself as well. Don't do something because it's in fashion or because it's in style. Do what you feel comfortable doing. You know, one thing I love about working with Bami, she still, you know, does her twerk after work and does her dancing and does her expressions and does everything that feels and looks free on her Instagram page, which is actually her in and out, which I absolutely love and adore. And then there's some people that I've met that I know personally, and then I look at their online profile and I think, this is not you. This is miles apart. And it makes me feel like, you know, this isn't being true to yourself. And there's only so long you can withhold that for. So be true to yourself. Even if it's not in fashion or not in trends, you can start the trend. You can be the fashion starter. Be consistent in whatever you're doing, whether it's once a month you do something, or once a week, or once every day. Be realistic with the time that you can spend on something and be consistent with that. And have a story. What's your story? And your story most likely will tie into your passion, and that will reflect in the conversations you engage with, again, and the things that you post. But have a solid story. I don't know, Bami might go into her personal story a bit later on, but for example, my story, you know, at the moment is why I work in RD&I is because I had a bad experience in a workplace. And I faced microaggressions, I faced racism, I faced all of that. And that's why I said, I don't want anyone else to experience that in the organizations that I work in. So I want to have an impact. As a matter of fact, I said I want to have an impact in the industry, you know, and then in the UK, and I wanted to spread that. So that is my personal story. And of course, I can go into depth about that. So have your story, have your reason, think about, again, once you have your story, you know the impact you want to make. So yeah, I've gone through this experience, so I now want to have this impact. And live your brand as well. Like, don't be afraid to talk about what you do with people that you meet on the street. I can be at the pub or on holiday and be like, yeah, this is what I do. I work on this. You know, you don't have to rub it in people's faces, but, you know, don't be afraid to talk about it. It's okay to blend the two sometimes. Also let others tell your story for you. You know, it always sounds better coming from other people. It sounds like you're not gloating. So let others tell it for you, and just be relatable. And the best way that I find that people are relatable is just being honest. Again, being true to yourself, being real. We don't always have great days. We don't always wake up jumping from the ceiling to the wall and, you know, waking up looking fabulous and flawless and having a great life. And that doesn't always happen. So be relatable, be real. We're all human, and people really resonate best with that. Other tips as well, planning your content helps. Posting regular and engaging content, and that can vary. Usually videos seem to be better. Be strategic about the events you attend. When you list your achievements, do it in a modest way, so when I say modest, not that you can't boast about yourself, but you can do in a strategic way. So for example, Bami posting about completing a workshop with a client. That's an achievement, but she did it in a way to share learnings, to share about the client and share what she was doing. Also be clear about what you do. As I mentioned before, get incredible endorsements and recommendations. Think outside the box as well. Think creative. Think about any crazy idea you have. Get excited about it and think, how can I expand on this? If this hasn't been done before, how can I make this even better? And treat your brand like a business, right? So this, or even a job. So the same way you'd, you know, wake up on time, start work at this time, do this meeting. If you've told yourself you're going to do this content, or, you know, you're going to finish this project, do it. Treat yourself like the brand you are. If you said you want to rework on your physical image for your personal brand, do it. Whatever it takes, do it. Plan it out, budget it, put it into timelines, and treat it like a business. And some of the best platforms, as we know, these days are all on socials and digital. LinkedIn, I spoke about earlier on how you can shape your LinkedIn profile, but it's the best platform for you to get headhunted on, the best platform for you to have your online CV just there and ready. It's perfect if you're looking for new opportunities, you can just say you're open to opportunities. You can be found by thousands and hundreds of employers. And also just make sure you state your achievements, what you've done and everything in your role. Literally, LinkedIn is your online CV. Instagram is where people can see a more relatable side to you. I think anyone that follows me on Instagram, you know, can probably say, especially with my stories, I'm just myself. I'll say relatable things. I might be silly, I might be fun, just might be witty. I think Instagram is a place where your audience wants to connect with the real you. So I think it's good to allow that for Instagram. Twitter, I feel like you have to be very careful with, because a lot of people have got in trouble in the past with Twitter for saying things, and it's backfired, you know, because opinions change. So I would say if you are to use Twitter and you were to link it to your personal brand, just make sure. I have a thing now where I write something out and I think, how would this be perceived? Is this on brand? Is what I'm going to say, is this on brand? Right? 5 years ago, 4 years ago, I wouldn't care about that. I'll be like, I can say what I want and do what I want. But as you start to grow your personal brand, you start to think, no, I built this reputation and I built this respect from particular people. So I have to be careful about what I'm actually saying. Then there's obviously YouTube, where you can churn out video content. TikTok, where you can churn out quicker video content as well. TikTok's been fantastic, as we all know. And then you can listen to podcasts. You can create podcasts on Apple Music or Spotify as well. Cool. And just a quick one on how to maintain. Find your inspirations, as I mentioned before. So find people that do inspire you. Continue to think outside the box. Don't stop thinking, brainstorming. Arrange conversations with people that are doing it really well if you have to. Think about growing your profile in every particular way, building up your platform, adding on your credibility, your achievements, keeping content new and fresh. Engage with new audiences. So say, for example, your audience is mainly LGBTQ plus community. Maybe say, okay, if I've tackled this community, if I've really gone for it, why don't I focus on women or focus on 16 to 25-year-olds? You know, don't be afraid to grow the audience that you have, or even grow the demographics or where they are. So say you've focused on LGBTQ plus in the UK, you can expand it to the US or expand it to Canada or wherever. And always ask yourself, whatever you put out there, whatever you say, whatever you do, whatever you post, wherever you attend, wherever you work, is this on brand? Just have that question there. And if you do everything else and ask yourself that question and continue to kind of grow your profile, you'll be on trend to building your personal brand. Thank you. So let me stop sharing.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Alicia. Please can you make me co-host?
Yep, sure.
Thank you. Okay, everyone. So I hope you're enjoying the workshop so far, and you can really see from what Alicia has taught us how you can really stand out from the crowd and ensure that you are maintaining that engagement with your personal brand so far. I just want to open it up to the floor, so to Ariel and Sapphire. If you can please let me know in the chat, specifically, let me know what's one thing that you have taken away from the first half of the session. So what's one thing that you think is important about personal branding? And go ahead and just drop it in the chat. Let's have a little bit of a conversation before we share it in travel groups. If you're into makeup, share it in makeup groups. Like, find specific, if you're a single mom, go and find single mom groups, because these are the people that are going to support you based on common interests. Like, the more that you share with someone in terms of interest, the better relationship's going to be. Now, online and offline, although it's different, you can still use some of the tactics I shared for online for offline. So I'll just briefly go through offline, which is introduce yourself via storytelling. So instead of just saying like, oh, hi, my name is Bami, go ahead and say, oh, if someone mentions something in a circle at a networking event and they're just talking, and I feel like, okay, I want to introduce myself, I can say, oh, what, really? I never knew that you were also interested, that you also went to a university in Toronto, because so did I. I went to the University of Toronto and then I graduated and got a job at Google and moved to Dublin. That's how I ended up here at this networking event. And then I can say, my name's Bami Kate, by the way, we should connect on LinkedIn. So you're really drawing them in with that story. Don't always just go in straight with, hey, I'm this person. Tell them a story, because I promise you, after you've mentioned, you know, those two key points that I mentioned for my story, which was Google and Toronto, someone's going to say, oh, I have family in Toronto, or, oh, I use Google every day. Okay, amazing. Also, read the room. Very important to read the room and who you're talking to, because different people will want to hear different parts of your story. Connect to those with similar interests. That matches to sharing your story in small niche groups online. It's just doing it offline. So if you are at a networking event, for example, and there's a section which is for people who have graduated from university, and there's a section for people who haven't, if you've graduated, go ahead and mingle with other people who've graduated so that you can connect with them based on uni life, uni stories. Ask open-ended questions. So open-ended questions aren't questions that have yes or no answer. So it's the opposite of that. So instead of saying to someone, oh, do you live in London? And when someone can just say no, and then the conversation is ended, you can say, oh, where do you live? And that is like, they can start talking about where they live. Use buzzwords based on the industry. So for the work that myself and Alicia do when we're looking at our diversity, equity, and inclusion stream, we really talk about, you know, diversity, inclusion. Those are keywords that we always need to use. So we always use those in our storytelling. Be concise and choose the most relevant part of your story, and come prepared with different experiences. Don't just have your one story and then get thrown off. So for example, have a light-hearted story, a fun story about when you might have, lost something and then you had to go and find it, and then you realize that, hey, my cell phone was in the fridge, something like that. Or an invest in me story because you're so amazing, one that really promotes how amazing you are. Have different parts of your story that you want to expand on based on who you're talking to. Now we're moving on to how to invest in your personal brand, because once you've taken that time to tell those stories and really tell a compelling story that you are proud of, it's time to invest in your personal brand. And I put at the bottom here, time investment is greater than a monetary investment, because it is, I promise you. Investing time, just like coming to this workshop, give yourself a round of applause, do a little happy dance, because that's you investing time into your personal brand. That's the first step. It's much better than going out and spending, £300 or whatever it is on Pretty Little Thing, trying to find new outfits to tailor your personal brand and take pictures on Instagram, because that's not going to make an impact. What's really going to make an impact is you spending time creating content, which is going to help get you discovered. Things like blogs, how-to blogs, and like support blogs that teach people something always do well on SEO. SEO stands for search engine optimization, which put in very simple terms is what shows up when you Google something. So when someone Googles twerk classes London, I always want my business to show up first. So how do I do that? I make sure that I'm sharing content on all different platforms. That's, using the hashtag twerk, how to shake, how to become confident in twerking, how to become a confident dancer. So many things, so that once someone searches that term, that's all that comes up. So here are some ideas that you can use to invest in your personal brand. Some of them are different, like write reviews. You would think, how is writing a review investing in your personal brand? It is, because when someone Googles your name, depending on how many reviews you've written and you put your name there, your name is going to come up. So if you've written a really lovely review for a business course that you are part of, even this today, you might have written a review for us today, that will come up. And then a recruiter could be like, oh, wow, this sounds like a lovely person. And then that's you really contributing not only to the person who did the workshop or the service or the business, but actually you're also contributing to your own personal brand online, because people can see how you even write. Blogs are not dead. People always try and say that blogs are dead. They are definitely not dead. They really, really help when you are trying to be found on the internet. If you're more of a confident person on video, make videos. If you don't like being seen on video, you can speak and make a podcast. If you don't like the sound of your voice, go ahead and start typing blogs online or leaving reviews. The most important thing I want you to remember from this slide is that you need to help others. You need to create things that are going to help others. So I'm always going to go back to Sapphire's story, because like I said, I'm just feel so connected to it. If Sapphire said that they are the first person in their family to go to university or graduate university, write a blog on that. How I was the first person in my family to graduate from university, and how you could do the same. Because trust me, there are many people who want to do. Remember, there are so many people who want to be in the position that you're in right now. Like, you're never too early in your career. You're never too early in your stage to share your story and to help someone else. So like it says at the bottom with the helping hands, just help someone. That's all you need to do. So how do you define your personal brand? This is our last exercise of the day, and I'm only going to give you 2 minutes to do it. I've done this exercise numerous times at numerous different business courses, and trust me, 2 minutes seems like it's quick, but it goes by, it goes by very slowly when you're trying to think about yourself and how you would define your own personal brand. So let's get straight into it. I'm going to put a 2-minute clock on the timer, and I just want you to start write it out for yourself. You can write it in your notes, send yourself an email, just start writing out, what's the first words that come to you when you think about your personal brand? All right, timer's going on in 3, 2, 1, let's go. Last activity from the day, you've got this. And those of you who are watching this recorded, like I said, go ahead and message us on LinkedIn if you want any feedback on how you define your personal brand. Myself and Alicia Richardson will be more than happy to help you and support you on this journey. So please feel free to message us at any time. So how do you define your personal brand? Just quick words, quick words. 30 seconds is already done. You have 1 minute and 30 seconds left. How do you define your personal brand right now in the way that it is right now? Quick, short words. It might be fun, exciting, boring, inspirational. I don't know. Go ahead and just write the first words that come into your mind. Quick, quick, quick. We don't want to think about it for too long, because this is likely, if you define yourself this way, this is likely how other people are seeing you as well, or at least how you want them to see you. So take your time. You've got this. 1 minute left. I told you, time is ticking. Okay, and that's it. Time is up. All right, so this is our last activity. So I want everyone to just take a moment and to type a couple of words in the chat that came to mind. Go ahead and get typing. I'm even going to find the chat box and I'm going to write mine. All right, ready, set, go. Write in just the first few words that came to mind. You can write the top 3 words that came to mind. All right, I've put mine in there. Fun, exciting, inspirational. Thank you, Sapphire. We've got empathetic, adaptable, collaborative, resourceful, friendly. I think we need your resume. I think we need your CV, Sapphire, because we definitely want to get you hired. So yes, that's amazing. Please connect with us on LinkedIn. Loving these. Resourceful, friendly, ambitious. Let me send over Alicia's because she sent it to me privately. Fun, free. Oh, thanks, Alicia. Fun, free, relatable. I love it. See, this is why myself and Alicia work together, because we're both fun. We both put fun as the first one that we do. That is amazing. And remember these buzzwords when you are talking about yourself and you're telling your story. It's like, you know what? I got this internship because I'm resourceful and I'm extremely friendly, yet so ambitious. Like, use these words and channel these words into your daily life, because this is exactly what you want the world to know you for. So thank you so much for joining. I just wanted to end this training with the fact that you need to remember that personal branding is not static. It's not something that you do, you put it on the wall and say, that's my personal brand. I'm done. I'm out of here, not looking at it again. It's something that's going to change over time, and it will also change in different environments depending on what you're trying to promote at that given time. But the most important thing, regardless of how your story shifts, is that it stays true to who you are, and it stays true to who you are as a person in that present moment. Don't let your personal brand stray and be too far away from who you are in real life. Because trust me, just like Alicia said earlier, people will recognize it, because you'll meet someone in real life and then you'll check them out online and say, hey, these two do not match at all. I don't know if I trust this person. Anytime that happens to me, because I've been around a lot of different influencers, and every time I look them up online before we meet, and then I meet them and they're a completely different person, and I'm just, every time I see their posts, I'm like, I have to unfollow you, because this is not authentic. This is not genuine. And I do not want to be around people, have that energy around me of people who are fake and phony. So please, please, please remember that your personal brand can change, but make sure it stays true to who you are, at least a part of who you are, because then people will always want to stay close to you and want to hire you. So thank you so much for listening to myself and Alicia. Like I said, let's continue this conversation on LinkedIn. Like, please, let's do it. You can see more of my amazing profile pictures. And does anyone have any questions for myself or Alicia? Please feel free to share them now in the chat. And if not, like I said, LinkedIn is where we are at. Continue to message us on LinkedIn, shoot us questions. You can even message me on Instagram, that's no problem. We'll be happy to answer any of your questions. So I'll just give it one more minute to see if anyone has any last questions for us. Thank you so much, Sapphire, for being so engaging. Thank you, Ariel, for coming.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate your time. And thank you to all those who've watched the recording as well. I hope you found it helpful. And like what Bami said, feel free to drop me a message on LinkedIn, ask me any questions. I'm always open to helping.
Awesome. Have a great rest of your day or your evening, and we'll see you all soon. Take care. Bye-bye.